domain to profit, and that means that we're going to be talking about some domain names. Today, in particular, I took something out of my journal. In fact, here it is right here. My journal with my daughter made a little uh, lion thing for it. Anyhow, but in the journal, I write down a lot of different ideas. I hope you are a journaler. Should all just anyhow, you should journal, write down your ideas, keep track of things. But today I want to pull something out of my journal, and that is the 5 keys to finding the perfect domain name for you to develop. The perfect one. If you could dream up what the perfect domain would be, well, these 5 keys would be part of what you should use. Chances are you already would be using them. Like if you were to come up with your own process, you'd come up with these 5 items. So I know that some interesting, good content. It was based on a tweet that, or a question that somebody was asking me about. What would be the 3 major tips that I'd offer up? Well, I got 5 for you because ultimately there's so many different things that get in our way: life, finances, a day job, just use of time. And realistically, we have to take into account all of these different problems that create obstacles for us to make our dreams come true. And these little, whether it's side project or whether you're trying to change your life with, a domain development project. So all that going to be here. So I'm going to pull out these 5 different pieces for you, these 5 keys. Then we are also going to do what we do every single week, which is the heart and soul of what this show is all about, which is we're going to look through domain names, domains that are available this week and like this week only. The old owner let them go, and now we get to go through them and look for the diamonds that are amongst all the garbage domains out there. And you will be shocked with some of the domains that we were able to find. If this is the first time you've ever watching, some domains are just worth a fortune. Great domains we could find on this show. So you need to make sure you're watching. Need to always be watching live so that way others can't beat you to them. So yeah. If you're with me, say hi in the chat. Make sure that I know you're here, where you're from. I love seeing everybody that's all across the world we've had joining us here. See you in the chat. This Domain to Profit. I'm Drew Wash.
The profit, domain to profit, from a dot-com to a business idea. Take a domain name, develop an income from domain to profit. We'll show you how. Domain to profit, from domain to profit. Join Drew Wash and get started right now.
Yeah. Forgot to mute again. Forgot to mute. Rookie mistake. I need the, anyhow. You know how Zoom has that thing where it's like you're talking, but nobody can hear you? I need that on this broadcast because I forget to unmute pretty frequently. Well, I was just saying hi to Lee, hi to Michael, hi to Frank out there. Thank you for joining me. Dang it. You think this is week 1 of year 2. You think that I'd be able to come over that stuff. Slow learner. Drives me nuts. Well, throws me off too. So let me see. Here it is. Exactly. Thanks, Lee. Thanks. But that's true. You can say that 100%. You are consistent enough to know. Yes, it seems like it's a common thing. I don't like that being a theme. I don't like that being a theme. But so we're here to talk about the 5 key aspects of finding the perfect domain name to develop. I'm guessing as I go over them, you will agree that they are the keys. You need to have these. These are like some of them are common sense things that you possibly even do without even thinking about it, or things that possibly you forget about, which could lead to disaster. So, we are going to be looking over some domain names as well. Yeah. Well, how about last week though? We had Peter on, first time ever having a guest join me here live. I mean, that is such to ask somebody to come on to a live stream. I mean, most of us want to hide behind audio only, which I get. I The idea of coming onto this stream the first time, actually the first probably 20 times was just like, just I have to be bold enough to hit the go live button. Then eventually, through Michael and Lee and so many of you joining me each week, it just kind of empowers you. You feel like you're hanging out with friends as much as anything else, and it empowers me, emboldens me to push the go live each week. But then it also forces me to, take it a little serious. Like I hate that I forgot to unmute because I want to make sure that I'm bringing a good game for you, that I'm bringing something, making it your time. You're choosing to be here with me. And I want to make sure that I try to do a good job for you. So the pressure builds for that. So let me get into the 5 keys to getting the perfect domain name for development. So the first key is it has to be obtainable. It has to be obtainable. I have a bunch of domains that I would love to own. You likely have all kinds of domain names that you would love to own. But ultimately, if we're going to choose to have a domain name, it has to be something that we can actually get. If, for example, I'd love to have the domain name 2-character DJ.com. It's owned by Dow Jones. It's going to be like I could never get that domain name. It wouldn't even make sense for the application of building a DJ directory. Like it's just too expensive a domain name. The numbers are all out of whack. It is not an obtainable domain name. Therefore, key number 1 is choose a domain name that's going to be obtainable. So that's kind of the common sense one. You think it's simple, except for I think us entrepreneurs, we're all dreamers, and we want to think that any domain name that we could ever think of could be obtainable. But the fact of the matter is hey, somebody else already possibly owns like most of the domains you want. So either be willing to pay the price they pay, look for other domains, watch the expireds, but ultimately the domain name that you're going to be looking for needs to be obtainable either with big money, patience waiting for it to become available, or some alternatives, which we'll get to a little bit later on. Just the idea of starting on an alternative domain name, keeping the better domain names in your back pocket, which is what we did with auto towing. We had autotowing.com. That was our main one. We were building out on that, always keeping an eye on towing.com. Not 100% sure if it was even going to be obtainable for us, but we started with what we could, knowing it was good enough, but maybe not the best. And then as we became more obvious that towing.com was going to be obtainable, then it became, and we took it off the wish list and brought it out front. So first key is it should be able to attainable domain. Keep your dreams kind of in check. I hate to say that I'm such a dreamer. I hate to ever tell somebody. I hate to tell you that not everything is possible, but ultimately, I guess anything's possible if you have enough time and money. The question is, do you have enough time and money right now? So, okay. So number 2, though, is the idea of just a knowledgeable, like, do you have the knowledge of the industry? The perfect domain name for you is going to be one that you already have knowledge in that industry. What are you passionate about now? Or more particularly, what are you experienced with? For me, I worked in a little niche industry, which is the auto transport industry. So this is an industry where they transport vehicles, transport cars on those big car carriers moving from East Coast, West Coast. The snowbirds go from, the cold states up in the Northeast of the United States down to Florida during the winter. And I knew that industry because I helped companies get good SEO in that industry. I knew their businesses, kind of the idea that, you know, they would make approximately 10% of the order as a broker commission. I knew, so I had an idea of like, what would their revenue be? How do they find their customers? Many of them were finding them through yellow pages back in the day. I mean, this was, gosh, I guess 2001 or so that I started to work in that industry. So I had industry knowledge. So chances are your perfect domain name is going to be something you already have knowledge about or are passionate enough about that you're gaining the knowledge and able to build that knowledge pretty quickly. I always talk about when we bought bartenders.com, it was very much, I didn't have any knowledge about it. There's a reason it's not developed yet. I still have much to learn on it. So it's not really the perfect domain name for me. It's just something I'm interested in and hope to, I will be growing into. But it would be it'd be a bad domain name to start with because I don't have knowledge of the business of being a bartender. So, what do you have knowledge in? What are your what's your day job? Can it be uh, improved upon with some kind of IT service? And that brings us to point three. So first we had has to be obtainable. Number two is you should have industry knowledge in the industry of your perfect domain name. And then number three is what's your in? What's your in? Business might call it your competitive advantage. And I call it your in. Like what gives you something that no one else has? So for this ties right into industry knowledge. And that is if you know the industry pretty well, chances are you've bumped up against a problem that needs a solution. So maybe it's in how customers are acquired. Maybe there's something there that just is such a pain in the butt that companies would really benefit from a new way to get customers, or the process of bringing a customer from a quote to an actual order, like a customer relationship management software or CRM. We actually, one of the first things I did in the auto transport industry was build a CRM, a custom, the quotes would come in, the customers would go into a database, and then they could choose to become a paid customer, paying, keeping all their information on file. This is back in the, I guess, late 90s, early 2000s, when, the idea of all the different CRM programs out there, they didn't exist. So custom had to be made. And that's exactly what I did. I knew the industry enough, knew that a lot of companies were still working off paper, and that was not a very good way to deal with, all these customers. I mean, you're dealing with maybe, thousands of quotes each week, turning into anywhere between 10 and 100 customers per week. I mean, you could see how if you're trying to do that on paper, it gets carried away. I saw the problem was and developed a solution for it, and then charged a monthly fee for people to participate in that program. So my in was I saw the problem and had the ability to create something. And speaking about if you have identified a problem and you're able to create the solution, in some ways the domain doesn't even matter if you find the perfect problem to solve. Back in the day, that was we did everything we did back on .net domains. They weren't even great domains, but we identified the problem, we created a solution, and then we already had experience with companies, so we had an in of being able to be like, hey, you know how this is a big headache? Well, we have this solution now. Pay us $250 and some money for processing, and boom, you have a solution for that. And voila, we had our first business based on that competitive advantage of, well, in that case, we were first. We were first. So, what's your in? What is the problem you're going to solve? How can you solve it different from others? In many ways, what we talk about with domain names, your in can be a great domain name. Your in can be the best industry defining domain name, but there has to be more to it than that. Like, how are you going to use it to really give them that competitive advantage? So the second one is that competitive advantage and your in. What's the in? The third one, I should say. So, moment to pause. What do you think? First three? I mean, obtainable. I, we all fall for you know, I mean, even along the lines of obtainable. In fact, let me get to number four because it goes along with so like all these tie into each other and mostly just approaches like common sense, which I hate that phrase common sense. It doesn't really even make any anyway. So number four is the domain name worth it? Is it worth it? Just like I said, I would love to have DJ.com. It would be a great domain name. I mean, it's a seven-figure domain name. The only thing is if you paid, say, even a million, say you got it for a reasonable price, you got that domain name for $1 million. Does it make sense to run the kind of business you want to run on that domain name? Can you make $1 million purchase and it makes sense for your business model? Are you going to make enough to where that you can pay off all your financing and everything that needs to happen for it? Or two, how does that compare to other opportunities that you may have? Like if you spend $1 million on that domain name, what if you could have gotten other domains for 10,000 and had almost as good of a opportunity? So there you go. That happened to me with dog groomers. The domain name, sure, maybe worth $104,000, but in reality, if I would have taken a step back, looked for other domain names, I would have probably found something else in the low five-figure range that I would have loved just as much. That would have allowed me to have access to the dog groomer business as much as doggroomers.com. So the question is, number four, is it worth it? Is your domain name worth it? So is it worth the effort you're going to have to put into it? This is the problem with bad domains. Like if you have you can build anything you want to on any domain name that you want to. You can choose, xyz123.info or something like that. The thing is, you're going to have to put a lot of effort into that domain name. You're going to have to put a lot of time into getting it out there and marketing it, and a lot of money as well. You're going to have to put a lot of marketing dollars in because your domain name sucks. Hopefully you have a good product. So I could show you what I like to do when I am making this kind of decision of whether something is worth it, especially when I'm comparing one domain name, one business towards all the others. I like to do a 2x2 grid, and I do not have my SkyCam set up, so I can't show you the drawing, but it's just basically 4 boxes all stacked 2x2, and you just put one thing on one axis, another on another, and you create the idea of a 2x2 grid and you just plot it out. On one axis, you might have time. And if it's going to take a lot of time to make it happen, boom, you just go towards the top. Little time towards the bottom, and so forth. Actually, you would reverse that. If it's going to take a lot of time, it would be towards the bottom. Little time towards the top because you want to have the good things towards your high part of the axis. Getting awful geeky here. And then the other one is like maybe what's the profit of what's the profitability? What's the potential of that domain name? And that is if you spend the time that you spend creating it, how much money can you make? And in this case, you want the good side to be furthest away from the axis or furthest away from the 0, 0. And if it's going to make you a lot of money, then you would want to plot it out here. So what you're looking for is on that 2x2 grid, you want to see the dots that if you spend a little bit of time, you're going to make a lot of money. How does this one domain name, this one project you're looking at compare to other ones that you're considering? Plot things like effort, how much effort you're going to have to put into it. How much money is it going to cost you to create what you need to create? And then also, what's the potential of it? What's the upside of it? Whether it's revenue or freedom or impact, all of those things, you just put them on 2x2 and kind of just choose which ones are the best ones for you. I'll have to create a little guide or whatnot for that. Dang it. I knew I should have set up the SkyCam and I didn't do it because I'm going to travel next week. So I didn't set it up because I just figured I'd just take it with me when I travel. And of course, now I regret it. Wish I had that for you so I could show you that graph because I think it really could. If you just look for a 2x2 grid, you'll find a lot of people teach that in decision making, the idea of 2 axes and make your decisions based on those. The other thing I want to say about whether a domain name is worth it is I encourage you to bootstrap, especially if this is one of your earliest projects, especially if it's a side hustle. Bootstrap is the idea that you are making money and growing the project over time without putting a bunch of money into it. You're not looking for, some outside funder to buy you something. You are buying within your means, whether that means you're hand registering a domain name for 10 bucks or within your means you're buying $1,000 or $10,000 domain name. Either way, you buy something, within your means, and then you grow it and put time and money into it as it starts to make money. We bootstrap everything, even now, even when we can probably get a little more carried away, or even when maybe taking in capital, venture capital or something would maybe make sense. We still just to prefer to hold off and bootstrap our projects and grow them over time based on our own means without bringing other parties into our product. That's especially important if you were to draw out like one of the keys to finding the perfect domain name. Hopefully, the perfect domain name for you includes one that you can build and grow without a bunch of other people having to be involved. Trust me, may sound good, may look good on Twitter to see people raising money, but in most cases, you're giving up your baby and creating a little bit of a headache for yourself. Not too many people really like their venture capital, other than the headlines, maybe. It does open up. Okay. Anyhow. So number 5, the kind of missing piece, I've already hinted at it on several occasions. Number 5, the fifth key to finding and getting that perfect domain name for your development project is whether you're passionate about it. Do you have the passion? And this is like it's what a lot of people forget about. And this is why so many people have great domain names that they're like, oh, I'm going to develop this domain name. I bought it for a bunch of money and now it still sits there because realistically, I'm not passionate enough about it to learn about the industry or to do the work to develop it. It's just something I think will make money. And you'll find making money is a really, it's a good idea. Like we all want to make money, but when it comes down to if you have to research some boring industry or just something you don't want to do, it's funny how little money money does not motivate when it comes down to doing something. Like, for example, there's a reason why here in the United States, uh, it's really hard or it's really expensive to hire a plumber because there's very few people that want to become a plumber, even though those guys make a bunch of money. Ultimately, they deal with a pretty crappy job. So they have to pay just ridiculous amounts of money to people to bring them into that industry because nobody's very few people are passionate about plumbing. So make sure that when it comes to your domain name, you're entering whether it's a hand registered domain name or something you're paying a bunch of money for. Make sure it's something you're passionate about. Early on, transport reviews, which is one of our projects, I guess that's this one up here. Transport reviews, I actually very much I'm passionate about that industry. My dad was a truck driver, and I tell a story where I was probably in kindergarten, and this was back in the day before we were they couldn't basically this was back in the day where my dad was able to have me in his truck with him. So I kind of took your son to work day. My dad took me in his big rig truck driving around, and I got to his terminal at one point. I was probably 5, 6 years old. I was young, and I got to his terminal where all the trucks back up to the docks and things, and we were in the dispatch office, and he was getting ready for his next load, and I said, "This is so cool, Dad! Like I want to do this." And I remember him pointing to the people in the back office, the people in the office there at the dispatch, and him saying, "I don't want you out here on the docks or in the truck. I want you in there. I want you running, being part of the office, part of this." And somehow that got kind of stuck in my brain. And when I was trying to decide what I wanted to go to college for, uh, I decided on transportation and logistics, trucker dad, and boom, So I decided to go into transportation logistics. I was already running or working with auto transporters at that time. So I had a lot of passion, had a lot of knowledge, and basically that passion allowed me to create transport reviews. And even though the domain wasn't great, it allowed me to dump that passion into something that grew like crazy. And I still hold on to it very much out of passion rather than necessarily what it makes or the revenue or whatnot. So if you can bring passion to what you're doing, it's going to make so many other things go away. You hear this all the time, and this is also why the domains I want to develop, are domains that deal with fun industries, fun service industries. I want to help entrepreneurs. So you'll see the domains we develop are for entrepreneurs, little guys that are like, boom, I want to start a business. And how do I do this? How do I get involved in getting customers on the internet? Hey, we have a domain that can help you with that. Join here, we'll help with your marketing. So, okay. Well, with that said, those are the 5 keys to choosing the perfect domain for you to develop. The first one, it needs to be obtainable. 2, you need to have knowledge about that industry, whether you already have it or whether you're going out and learning it. Passion helps with that. And then number 3, you need to make sure that you have an in. What problem are you solving, or what is it that you're able to bring to it that others aren't currently doing? What's your in? It could be your industry knowledge, could even be your passion, could be a domain name that you already bring into it. You need to have something that others don't when you're doing this. What's your in? Just something simple, something simple. And then 4, you can go with, is it worth it? This is where we do like a 2x2 grid, or maybe just a list of pros and cons. Is it going to be worth it for you to spend the time, spend the money, put forth the effort, learn the skills you need to build out the business on that domain name? And then 5 is the idea of, are you passionate about it? Do you want to bring it? Just like here, I do domain to profit out of passion. I love domain names and I love developing. So I can come here and talk to you about it every single week for 53 weeks out of passion. If I had to do this because I was getting paid, I'd probably lose my freaking mind. But out of passion, I'm here. And that's why I'm able to do this. It's one of the very few appointments I have on my schedule every single week. You just have to trust me on that. There's not many things on my schedule. This is one of them. One of, I think, 3. I have a couple meetings that I have scheduled, and this right here, hanging out with you. And it's all because this is about passion for me. So there you go, the 5 keys. Now, let's get to some domain names and let's find some domains that are available, right? I love doing that stuff. And let me see here. Darcy he's mentioning that the mic is low. Not sure if anybody else is hearing that. I see that it could be a little low. I can't, I got a lot of good green lines, and then I do see some that are showing it on the low side. See if I can adjust it to point a little bit higher. But if it's an issue for people, let me know, and I will try to adjust. So yeah. So what we've just talked about are the 5 keys to choosing the perfect domain name for your development project. I hope that those were helpful for you. Use them as a checklist, add them to a list to where when you're deciding on a domain name, you're finding them. So what do you do, like, as far as like knowing what your passion is, knowing whether something's attainable? Like, how do you like monitor for these domains? Because we know that they're not going to be available. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit as we dive into expireddomains.net. So we want to make sure that. So how is it that I monitor? What's my process for watching for perfect domains for me? That's kind of what you may be wondering as of this point is, uh, okay, great, Drew. We get it. Perfect domains, we want them, but getting them is the hard part. So what do you do? I in many cases we end up just buying them if we can. Uh, but there's also one aspect that you really have to do, which is time. Use time as your benefit, which is what we're going to be talking about as we go through some expired domains. In this over here, my poor this is the camera that usually moves, but the motor broke. Bummed. Okay, so I got to keep the main one here. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to expireddomains.net, free service. Yours will be a different color because I have mine set up to be dark mode. So if you're looking for the perfect domain name, you can start by running down those 5 points and thinking about what industries you're interested in, what do you already know about. For example, guys here in my office, I have guys that are interested in roller coasters, theme parks, video games, computer games, streaming, different things. Like they're all passionate about those things. And I highly recommend you create a list. So first thing you would want to do is create a list of what are the keywords, what are the industries you're interested in, and then you can start to kind of create alerts, create systems that will let you know when domain names are available in those arenas. So when you're on expireddomains.net, you'll want to go to marketplace domains. This is where we spend our time. This is where we look for domains that are expired, coming up for auction. These are going to be the opportunities. And what you'll find here when you've created an account, just like we set up filters here under show filter, that's where we're going to go to set up filters. When we set up searches, we can actually save those searches. So if you wanted to, so let's go into the filters. I'm going to set these up as, let me reset the size here. Okay, so I'm going to run through my normal filters. I'm going to get rid of numbers, I'm going to get rid of hyphens. I'm going to go English 1 to 3 words. I'm going to keep it within the next 7 days. And then I'm going over here to say .com only. Some of the things that we don't currently do, but that you can absolutely do here is you can, like say you were interested in towing domain names. I have most of the good ones, so good luck with that. But let's say you were looking for towing domain names, or maybe you wanted candy, or maybe you're really into knitting. I don't know. What are people into? Okay. So you can enter in your keyword here. And then when you save this, you can save your search and then just come back to that search and see when those domains, what domains are available at any given time. Very precise way to do that. So for example, I like building sand castles. So let's say I'm looking for a domain that contains sand. I'm not going to spend much time on this, but I'm just kind of curious as to what shows up. I apply those filters. These are looking through GoDaddy domains. There's actually some reasonable things here. Probably nothing that we're going to mess with. I'm looking down through them though, because what the heck. Yes, I actually do love building sandcastles. When I go to the beach, that's what I want to do. Everybody else can go play in the ocean. I want to build a sandcastle, and not just like some little baby sandcastle. I want to build something crazy that everybody comes by and looks at. So not seeing any here, but what you can do is you can come over here and save this query. You can save this, and then you can come back to it. So you can set up a routine where every week you're just coming to look through the domain names that have to do with your different passions or your different industries that you want to work in. That is one way to do it. That would be kind of a bit of a passive way to do it. You come in when you want to. What I would highly recommend would be to, I'm not going to actually, I'm not going to demo it for you, but I would go to a site, and this is what I do. I will go to a site like snapnames.com. Well, I'll go ahead and demo it. I go to snapnames.com, and this is one of the auction places. You can set up back orders and things with them, but I will search for domains. If there's a domain name that I am interested in, but maybe somebody has some garbage site up on it, and maybe if I think that someday it might drop, what you can do is search for a keyword here. Then you can select out some domains, like for example, sand.com. You can back order that domain name. You can back order other domains, exact domains that you're interested in. And then what you can do with this is you can save those searches And Snap Names will email you when domains become available that are of interest to your keywords. So you can save a bunch of searches and they will say, hey, here's some domains that are coming up, and you can try to back order them through here. I would highly recommend you go all over the place. And if you see something coming up that you're interested in, try to get it through Snap Names, try to get it through Dropcatch, try to get it through every different service out there, especially if it's something you love. But what you can do is back order it here. It says it's $79, but you only pay that if you actually get the domain name. So it's free to back order a domain name. And the nice thing is they monitor that domain name for you. They let you know when something changes. So that way you can, oh, I'd love to own this domain, this domain, this domain. I have hundreds, if not thousands of domain names that I've thought, ooh, I'd love to know these domains. You just bulk put them in here, save them, and now Snap Names does the job of monitoring those domains for me. And on many occasions, when they alert me or say that this domain's pending delete or something, sometimes I'll mess with it through Snap Names. Other times I'll just go around trying to get it elsewhere as well. So uh, hopefully that's a helpful way to kind of monitor. And that's if you know the industry you want to work in. So as of this point, I'm back over to expireddomains.net. I am under Marketplace Domains, GoDaddy Expired Domains. We've weeded it down from about 300 domains, 300,000 domains, down to 95,000 domains. And we're just going to go through and find some great domain names. These are all available in theory for you right now. So more on that as we find something good. So when it comes down to these domains, if you see something on my screen, or if you're kind of doing this on your own, feel free to call it out in the chat. And I will do one of two things with domain names. If I'm passing up on something and you're thinking, man, why isn't Drew talking about that domain? I can either tell you why I'm not talking about it, or maybe you caught something that I didn't see, and I can tell you, we can go into a business idea for it. Wealth generators, not really a big fan of that. It sounds good. I mean, it has wealth in it. Must be worth something. Be wild. That's fun. It's wordplay, though, and you'll find wordplay in domain names is not necessarily a good idea. Be wild would typically be be wild, but obviously it's a little bit of a wordplay for those who are interested in bees, like bees. And so a fun domain name, but it's not going to pass like what a lot of people call the radio check. I call it just phonetically, it doesn't make sense. So like it doesn't sound, you're always going to be saying, yeah, be wild, as in BEE, like the bee buzz, like the bumblebee.com. Like you won't be able to just say bewild.com unless you own both BE Wild and BE Wild. Lurks.com. I'm going to mark that one. I don't know what I would do with it, but I kind of like it. Let's see if it's actually going to be available. And would I do these domains? No. So here, this is one of the things that does happen occasionally, or pretty frequently actually. The person that the domain was expiring, they've renewed it. So they get right up into the last minute to renew it in many cases. In this case, they renewed it. So a lot of times, or pretty much always, when I'm doing this, when I'm looking through these domains, this is real time. I'm looking and seeing this list for the first time, just like you. I'm passing up on domains, just like you would pass it up, possibly, or spotting them. So this is very much me looking at the domains for the first time. Innovative software. Let's go back up to that one. That's a pretty good, uh, software's, that word has fallen out of favor. I don't think many people, but it's still, there's something there for innovative software. I'm sure if we go to, which we should, let's go check out the free tool, or you can pay for it, which is spyfoo.com. See that up here, maybe? Nope. Yeah, spyfoo up here. It didn't help. Okay. So here we can search for innovative software. And what this will do is it's going to show us how many people are searching for it. Are there people actually searching for the exact keyword innovative software? You'll see they estimate through their algorithm here 230 clicks or visitors are available. So that's kind of a low number, but you'll see that there are, some other keywords that innovative software kind of goes with: innovative software engineering, innovation management. Nothing too spectacular. Uh, if you're into innovative and creating software, then maybe it's worth a darn for you, but I'm going to skip it. Instead, I'm going to go with Journey Map. Highlight these. JourneyMap.com, if this is actually available. So there's a bunch of different ways you can do this idea of a journey map. And the reason why it caught my eye is I'm actually wondering if there's anything along the line of journey map. So give me 1 second. Yeah. So journey map. And this is here, customer journey map. So part of the process of marketing is you want to make sure that your site or your marketing channels all contact in that the customer is experiencing what you want them to experience at every touch point. It's called the customer journey. And so the idea of a journey map, you usually map out all the points that a customer is in contact with you. So when they log into your site, that's a touch point. When they are reading your email, when they are receiving an email receipt, when they get a quote, when they call you for customer service, when they call you for sales, all these different places are touch points. And a customer's journey will be from before they even know about you, all the way through becoming aware of you, learning about you, signing up with you or doing a free trial, and then becoming a customer. All of these represent what is the customer journey. And a journey map would be, at best or at worst, a good brand for a product that monitors a customer journey. But then, as you can see here, lots of people are searching for the exact keyword journeymap.com. You would want to probably be somebody like me that's into marketing, into the idea of systemizing the customer journey, which is essentially what I try to do. I like the domain name, customer journey map template. Look at this. So let me try to zoom in on this. You can see not only does it have thousands of exact match searches for journey map itself, 9,400 to be precise. There's also all these other ones. Journey map, that keyword is in other keywords. So customer journey map template, journey map Minecraft. What? Okay, that's a little bit different, but you can do that as well. There's some good searches for that. My daughter's a Minecraft fan. That's all she ever wants to talk about. So there you go. So there's some traffic around it, some exact matches. I like journey map. I'll go ahead and place a bid just to get in on the auction. And of course, I've already been outbid by one of you guys. So one of you guys or gals already outbid me. That's okay. I don't know how much I'm into it, but I do like it, and I want to monitor that auction. HireYou.com, more of a brand more than anything else. Probably not a lot of searches for that exact phrase. And I've talked about this on other shows, but the exact match. If you do not have a tool that can show you people actually searching for that exact domain name, those keywords in that domain name, you are just using your intuition, you're using your gut feel, and especially if you're starting off in domain names, your gut feel is likely going to be wrong more than it is right. Statistically speaking, and I could tell you this because I have hundreds of domain names in my somewhat small portfolio that I don't really even like, that I would never buy nowadays, but they were part of my journey to becoming an expert in buying domain names. And I still keep them because I love them. They're good domains. They're my children that I registered early on. But in reality, they're probably never, they're nothing special. So when you see domains like Hire You, you have to use a tool. You have to go outside of your gut feel and find out, is there actually something there? Hire You, 150 possible clicks out there for potential. But you'll see here, there's really nothing. Why should we hire you? So you could play into those keywords. I don't, that would be a blog. You can maybe do a blog site around hiring if you have job tips. There's some potential there. I can actually see some stuff with that. Peter, who we had on last week, might be interested in like hire you as a brand or a blog. You'll see down here, Google is saying there's not much in the way of search volume. Nobody's really paying to advertise or target the keyword hire you. This would probably be more of a brand, as I said, a brand that you can possibly build yourself up as an expert in hiring and finding jobs and recruiting, things like that. In general, though, not a big fan and certainly a pass for me. Okay, ad times, times. The word times gets a little bit popular from the idea of newspapers, but mile go boat tops. Virtual Palace sounds like a game or something. Don't know what the heck you do with it other than sounds fun. Cognitive analytics sounds smart. That would be one I'd have to put it in and see if people actually search for it. Uh, I'm not really interested in it. That would be kind of a high tech thing. I guarantee there's people that search for that. Uh, but when it comes to passion or interest, I have none. But if you're a geek guy, I mean, I love analytics, but cognitive analytics, you're probably getting into a little bit of AI and stuff like that. Maybe worth investing in, but not of interest to me. Different strokes for different folks. That's the beautiful beauty of all this is uh, you may find opportunities in the things I leave behind and so forth. There's lots of opportunities, and that's why it comes to those 5 key pieces: your knowledge, your passion, what you find as going to be worth it or whatnot. You're in. Maybe you have a rich uncle or somebody that already works in an industry. There you go. That could be your in. So there could be stuff for you. Secretcameras.com. You see that one over there? Secret Cameras. 1998. That's an old domain. Up, not available. I kind of figured that one would probably be renewed. So skipping on the secret cameras. So if you're watching on Restream or joining us live late, what we're essentially doing now is what we do each Monday, and that is looking through domain names that are available this week specifically. And those domain names, what you see here, you could go out to GoDaddy and actually participate in the auction, which will end this week. And you could walk away with one of these domain names. Trackfitness.com. Trackfitness.com. A lot of people do it. Oh, 46 minutes left. So that one's going to be ending while we're just after the show. I don't want to be left out. So let me see if I don't really do much with fitness. Yeah, so fitness tracking app. That's more like what I would expect it. People search for, there's a lot into fitness tracking. So maybe that was one that you might be interested in, trackfitness.com. It's certainly a pretty good domain to enter into fitness stuff. A weird thing that I find is in the world that we have, the amount of money spent on losing weight is really close to the amount of money that we spend on food that we waste, if that makes sense to you. So it's just kind of an interesting, like we spend a lot of money and buy food that either goes bad or we don't use in some way, we throw it out. The amount that we spend on that is actually also the amount that we spend on losing weight. So it's funny how we can't make up our mind when it comes to food, at least here in the US, where it's like, can't decide if we want to be obese and eat all our food or spend all the money to lose weight. Improve productivity. I'm such a sucker for these kinds of things, like keywords that I use or think about, like, oh, how can I improve productivity? This one ends tomorrow, $32. So, do you have a tool to improve productivity? Are you into maybe business coaching or personal development coaching? If you have a product, service, something that improves productivity, this could be a domain name for you. $32 ends tomorrow, super cheap. I may even participate in that one. I don't know. Uh, the only thing is, if I buy improveproductivity.com, I have a feeling it will reduce my productivity. So serviceus.com, that one's kind of a pretty good domain. Let's see if that's available as well. Serviceus.com also ending tomorrow. So tomorrow seems to be a pretty good day. Uh, that's probably a pretty good customer service type domain name. Um, I'm guessing Spy Food is not going to give us much as far as, yeah, not really many exact searches. I guess service and using US instead of us could be something there. Probably more in the line of a investment type of domain, something for a pet project rather than an exact match domain. Latest breaking news. I'd avoid news domains like the plague unless it's very a niche industry that you may be an expert in already. That might be fun. Club golfer. Took the words. If it was a golf clubber or something, but club golfer, not a big fan. Team George. Seems interesting. Laser Job Shop. And Michael's asking, let me see here. Let me try to pull it up if I can. Michael's asking, over the course of a week, how often do I research domain names? And my answer is as little as possible. In many weeks, for many weeks over the last year, especially, this is it. Like this time with you is all the time that I spend. And the reason why that is I want to spend my time. I want to develop more domain names. I want more domains to be developed. So if I am spending more time here buying more domains, because that's what's going to happen. If I look, I will find good ones, I will buy them, and then they're going to sit in the back of my portfolio until I have a chance to develop them. I want more domains developed. So I would much rather empower you, share wisdom with you. Hopefully, you can go and develop, you can find great domains, and then you can develop them into something that gives you money and changes your life. So while I go and spend time on my actual day job, which is developing domains and running businesses. Uh, as I said earlier, this is very much my passion project. This is out of love. No one else here messes with domains other than me. Well, other than if they're interested in a domain name for their passion. But yeah, so I don't know if that 100% answers your question. I'm guessing it does. So sometimes if I see one, if something comes across Twitter, I'll go looking off. If I'm bored, sometimes I'll scroll through here. This is the only deliberate time that I set aside to look through domains, though. And I will also say, going back to, I do get emails from Snap Names. I have lists set up to where I don't have to go seek domains as much. I have domains alerts that come to me when a domain name is coming available or one might be of interest to me. That comes to me. Like I don't have to go spend time looking through hundreds of thousands of domains like this. I have a list of industries I'm interested in. I have alerts set up for those industries, watching for domain names, and then I get a few emails daily or a few times a week and go look at them if I need to. It is a way to waste a lot of time. I'm guessing many of you do waste a lot of time looking through domains. And realistically, if you know what you want, if you've taken the 5 keys that we talked about, you can come up with a list of the domains that you really want, the ones that you should be looking for, the industries that you should be working in. And then you can just watch those while you concentrate on one project and then keep an eye out for great opportunities elsewhere. But yeah, you don't want to. There's a lot of people that waste a lot of time looking at the domains, and realistically, uh, I don't know if it's worth it. I don't know if it's worth spending too much time. If you were to spend hours a day, I think you have uh, the marginal return that you get per hour. You could probably spend 2 hours a week max and have a very good opportunity to find domains if you think about what you're looking at in advance. What ends up happening is I sit here on the show with all of you, and I'll end up buying domains in industries that I really don't have. Oh, look at that, Paul's Marketing. That's that's pretty cute. I might have to mess with that one. Let's see if that's available. So that again, that's just brandable. So ownedoggroomers.com. There you go, Paul's Marketing. That's a cute domain. I don't know if I'll mess with it or not, but if you work in pets and they're interesting pets and you want to help groomers or whatever market themselves, that could be a good brand for you. It does have a middle S, but I think it makes sense to have Paul's with an S versus without. Mighty Reports, Buying American. That that's actually probably a better domain name than what. Let's see. American Airlines, Buy American Airline. I'm actually surprised it's not a better keyword than what I expected. Again, that's one of the things. Instead of going with my gut was saying that seems like a pretty good domain. It may still be a good domain, but it falls more as a brandable type domain. You would sell that for a few $1,000 to somebody that's passionate about it rather than going for an exact match. It would not be something you probably develop. So, anyhow, hopefully that's helpful while I'm passing on that domain. It did not have the exact match search, and I want the exact match. I try to get to 400 domains, which is, I set it up to where it's 200 domains per page. We've made it through 200 domains. We're on to our second page of domains. I find that you could probably go 8 pages deep most weeks and find great domains. I find great domains all the time, right around that 1800 or 1600. So I guess let me pull this out. Over here, we are ordered by what is a GoDaddy valuation of a domain name. And this value, you'll see we're only at $2,400. When that gets down to $1,600, $1,800, that's actually a sweet spot that I found for buying domain names that I really like. Niche domains that get some good keyword traffic. They're in industries that are just kind of forgotten about or not really, they're not sexy industries. So people aren't really searching for them a ton. Maybe they only get 1,000, 2,000 searches each month, but those 1,000, 2,000 searches are really valuable. And you could do well in the search engines, which is, that effort. If you think about that 2x2 grid, if you have to put very little effort into, getting a couple thousand good searches, that's a positive, right? That's a positive. That means that's a much more likely to be a perfect domain for you than if you did not have. And I should actually, I'm waiting until the last few minutes here, which is a mistake. But if you're watching this long, you should make sure you subscribe to the channel. Each week I go live to look at domain names, look for opportunities, and live make sure that you're going to be alerted through YouTube. And you're helping me get to 1,000 subscriptions, which is a goal of mine. So please subscribe. I very much appreciate it. Like the video as well, just because, hey, I like positive dopamine as well. Give me a thumbs up. It's like, hey, that's nice. They liked it. They like something that I like. It's always nice to find other people that like stuff you like. Birds of a feather, right? We all hang together in the chat. Mike, Lee, Mario. I appreciate y'all. Which, if you watch us on Restream, you miss out on the chat. Everybody in there, others looking to come together and find domain names. It's not really as much competition as it is others that are interested in the same things, guys that are, out here developing websites, building businesses just like you may be interested in doing or already doing. It's a good thing to be with like-minded people that have positive goals similar to your own. And I am going to go one more page down, or just a couple more scrolls here, and then I'm going to wrap up. Let's see if we find something good. Okay. So one of the things I will do is I will end up spending, a lot of times I will sit down maybe a little bit later on after the show and kind of continue down to the list a few more pages. It's not something I want to do necessarily here. What I do is I will go live again either now or later in the week if I do find some great domain names. So subscribing is really going to be important if you want to see domain names as I find them. So sometimes people will alert me of great domain auctions that I've already missed, or I'll stumble across them. I want to make sure to put those in front of you, and subscribing to the YouTube channel is one of the ways to make sure that you can see that when I go live. Because realistically, if you watch it on Restream, you may very well be missing out. Just like the one domain name that we pulled up earlier. Which one was that? So this one here, trackfitness.com, it's going to end shortly after this. So if you're interested in fitness, maybe you have some great app that you want to develop out in regards to fitness, like this domain here, trackfitness.com, you won't have a chance at it. Like, this domain will be out of auction. It's going to be done. If you're watching this on Restream, you missed out on something like that. Imagine if that was your perfect domain name. Imagine if you went through your 5 keys and you were like, ooh, these domains would be great for me. And you create that list and you missed out on it. What if you missed out on it because you didn't watch live? Anyhow, you missed out on the community and the chat. You miss out on the getting the opportunities as we see them. So make sure you watch live. But I appreciate you even if you watch on Restream. I thank you all for joining me. This is week 1 of year 2, and this is Domain to Profit. I am Drew Wash. Thanks for hanging out with me. Take care.